Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. I, 28 female, called off my wedding 2 weeks ago. I didn't plan to. I'd already said yes to the dress. Invitations were sent. The cake had been chosen. My bridesmaids had their dresses, and we were only months out. I thought I knew the man I was marrying. But what happened the night of my mom's birthday made something snap in me. And once it did, I couldn't walk it back. I've been with Tom, 32 male, for 3 years. We met shortly after he'd gone through a tough breakup. He told me early on that he'd been engaged before, to a woman named Melissa, but it ended badly. I never pushed for the full story. At first, all I knew was that she'd left him suddenly, and it took him a while to trust anyone again. Eventually, I learned more. He told me Melissa had cheated on him with her boss, a married man, much older and well-established. Tom found out after she confessed she was pregnant, and that the baby wasn't his. According to Tom, Melissa had been sleeping with her boss for months. When she realized she was pregnant, she told her boss, expecting him to leave his wife. Instead, he told her to terminate the pregnancy, and she did. She ended it. Not to reconcile with Tom, but to keep her relationship with the boss going. She left Tom and moved in with a friend, and from what I understand, she tried to build a future with the boss behind closed doors. But, of course, that didn't last. About 8 months ago, Melissa got pregnant again from the same boss. This time, she refused to terminate. She decided to keep the baby, and as soon as she told him, he backed out. Completely. No support. No money. Just gone. She was pregnant and alone. So, she did what a lot of people do when they've hit rock bottom. She went looking for the one person who used to love her unconditionally. She reached out to Tom. At this point, we were nearly 2.5 years into our relationship. Living together, engaged, planning a wedding. Life was good. I knew Melissa had hurt him, but we haven't heard about her much recently. So when he told me she had messaged him out of nowhere, I didn't think much of it. He said she was pregnant, alone, and scared. That she wasn't asking for anything. Just conversation. A friend. I was uncomfortable, but I didn't want to be possessive. I told him I wasn't thrilled, but I wasn't going to forbid anything. I asked for boundaries. No visits. No late-night calls. No emotional dumping. He agreed. And for a while, it seemed fine. Until a few weeks later, when he told me he had gone to her apartment to help her put together a crib. Then it was a doctor's appointment. Then groceries. Then he was texting her daily, just checking in. I kept my mouth shut longer than I should have. Every time I brought it up, he said he was just trying to be decent, that she had no one, that he couldn't live with himself if something happened to her, and he ignored her. By the time she was 8 months pregnant, he was basically her on-call support system. I told him this was not sustainable, that she had family, that she needed to build her own village, that he was making her problems ours, and I never agreed to that. He promised to take a step back, said he realized it was too much. I believed him. Then came the night of my mother's 50th birthday party. Now, let me pause and explain why this event mattered so much. My mom raised me and my siblings on her own after our dad passed. She worked 2 jobs, skipped every luxury for herself, and still managed to be the most emotionally present person in our lives. She never threw a birthday party for herself. Never had a celebration in her name. This year, we planned something special. We booked a venue, hired a caterer, invited her childhood friends and extended family, even flew in relatives from out of state. It was the first time in over a decade that the whole family would be together. Tom knew this. He helped plan the event. He wrote a speech. We picked out matching outfits. My mom adores him and was genuinely excited to see us both there. The night of the party, I was getting dressed while Tom buttoned his shirt in the mirror. We were laughing about something stupid. I don't even remember what. And then his phone rang. He looked at it and went still. "It's Melissa," he said. I didn't say anything. He answered and walked out. When he came back a few minutes later, he looked serious, almost pale. "She's in labor," he said. I blinked. "Okay, and?" "She's alone," he added. "Her mom's overseas visiting family. She doesn't want to call anyone else. She's scared," I said, "so call an ambulance." "That's what people do when they're in labor." "She already called one, but she wants me there." I stared at him. "You're not serious." He said, "I think I have to go." I reminded him that my mother's birthday was that night. Not just any birthday, but a once-in-a-lifetime event she had waited 50 years for. That I needed him, that our family needed him, that he wasn't this woman's partner, and this wasn't his responsibility. He said, "I know. But what kind of person leaves someone alone during labor?" And I said, "What kind of fiancé leaves his partner alone at her mother's 50th birthday?" He didn't argue. He just grabbed his keys and left. I showed up to the party alone. People started asking, "Where's Tom? Is he okay? Is he coming later?" I smiled. I lied. I said there was an emergency. My mom noticed, but she didn't say anything. She just hugged me a little longer when I gave her flowers. I made the toast. I posed for photos. I laughed at jokes and helped pass cake. But inside, I was sick, angry, humiliated, heartbroken. He didn't call, didn't text, didn't even check in. The next morning, he came home around 7:30 a.m. I was still awake, sitting in my pajamas at the kitchen table. He looked tired. His eyes were red. His shirt was wrinkled. "She had some complications, but she's okay," he said. "The baby's healthy." Then, and I swear I'm not exaggerating, he smiled and pulled out his phone. "Want to see a picture?" That was it. I stood up and said, "The wedding is off." He froze. "Wait. What?" "I'm not doing this," I said. "I'm not marrying someone who can drop me and my family in a second to run to the woman who cheated on him, got pregnant and left him for her boss, and only came crawling back when her affair fell apart." He said I was being harsh, that I didn't understand how hard it is for a woman to go through labor alone. I said, "Then go help her not be alone. She clearly still comes first." I packed a bag that afternoon and left for my sister's. He's been calling ever since, texting, telling me he made a mistake, that he was just trying to do the right thing, that Melissa isn't a threat, that I overreacted. His mom even called me to say I was too emotional, and that life doesn't always go according to plan. Maybe that's true, but I don't want to build a life where I'm always the backup plan. So, am I the a-hole for canceling my wedding after my fiancé left me alone at my mother's 50th birthday party to be at the hospital with his pregnant ex? The same woman who cheated on him, terminated her first pregnancy for her boss, and only came back when she had no one else. Not the a-hole. OP showed a level of patience and grace that honestly most people wouldn't have. From the moment his ex came back into the picture, it should have been obvious that strict boundaries needed to be put in place. But instead of protecting their relationship and respecting OP's comfort, he kept inching closer to someone who had already wrecked his life once. Melissa made her choices. She chose the affair. She chose to end her first pregnancy to keep the affair alive. Then she got pregnant again, hoping the man would finally commit. And when that failed, she crawled back to the one person who still had a soft spot for her. And OP's fiancé rewarded her by becoming her emotional lifeline. That's not compassion. That's unfinished business. OP is not heartless for walking away. OP is smart for refusing to be someone's second choice. And now let's hear community's opinion. This wasn't a surprise delivery in the middle of the woods. She had 9 entire months to prepare for this baby. 9 months to find a birthing partner, hire a doula, ask a friend, call her mom earlier, like anything. But she didn't, because she knew exactly what she was doing. She let herself fall apart at the finish line, knowing Tom would swoop in and save the day. And he did. The problem is, he didn't just choose to be a good person. He chose her over you at a critical moment. Your mom's 50th wasn't some casual dinner. It was a once-in-a-lifetime event your entire family had been planning around, and he knew that. He abandoned you, not just emotionally, but publicly. He showed everyone where his priorities were. You were absolutely right to cancel the wedding, because this would have just been the beginning of a lifetime of being second place. I can't stop thinking about your mom. She waited her whole life to be celebrated, and when she finally had her moment, the man who's supposed to be joining your family just ghosted the event to run to his ex. That's more than inconsiderate. It's insulting. It shows a complete lack of loyalty, not just to you, but to the family he claimed to want to be part of. He missed a major life event to play emotional support for someone who once treated him like a doormat. That's not doing the right thing. That's crossing boundaries. And the worst part? He didn't even seem to realize what he did was hurtful. He came back smiling, showing off baby photos like everything was normal, while you were still in your dress, hurting and humiliated. He made his choice, and you made yours. You did the right thing. The fact that he looked you in the eye and said you don't understand how hard it is to be a single mother, as if you were the one failing to be supportive, is mind-blowing. No, you're not responsible for picking up the pieces after someone else's affair fell apart. That baby isn't yours. That drama isn't yours. He knew what kind of night it was for your family. He knew how important it was to your mom, to you, to everyone, and he left anyway. Not because it was a life-or-death emergency, but because he still feels like he owes Melissa something. That's not your burden to carry. If he wants to play house with her and the baby, he can do that, just not while dragging you along for the ride. Walking away took strength. You're not cold. You're finally done being the fallback plan for someone else's mess. I have one son and one granddaughter who is 20 years old. My son had a very bad relationship with his ex-wife that made him very unhappy. Because of this, he had an affair and a few months ago filed for divorce to be with the woman from the affair. They recently sold their house so he can purchase a new one to live with them. My ex-daughter-in-law was very angry at this situation and would regularly influence my granddaughter to alienate her from my son. My granddaughter now ignores her father and is very cold towards him. She also never reaches out to me or replies to the text messages I send her. On Christmas, I found her to be very rude to my son when she came over with him for supper. She regularly calls his girlfriend bad names and insults her if the topic is brought up because she is very hung up on the fact that he cheated. She says she never wants to meet her, but I don't think this is fair because she makes my son happy. For Easter, I decided to invite my son, his new girlfriend, her 2 kids, so that I have a chance to meet them, but not my granddaughter. I knew she would be upset, but I don't like that she doesn't reply to my messages, so I didn't bother asking, so we kept it a secret instead. I also knew she wouldn't want to come anyway if they were there. Apparently, she figured I invited my son's girlfriend because my ex-daughter-in-law pestered my son as to why none of us said anything to my granddaughter on Easter. After this, I left a text message to her saying that if she doesn't make an effort to reach out to me, I will stop trying as well. It took several days, but she finally replied a few days after, very angrily. She was very rude and said I don't care about her because I prioritize the new girlfriend instead of her. I told her maybe if she reached out to me, she would be invited, but she kept insulting me and told me I should be embarrassed of my son. I told her she needs to apologize for the way she spoke to me, and that if she wants to see us, she needs to accept her father's new family because he deserves to be happy. But since I kept it a secret, I feel a bit bad. She is my only granddaughter, and we used to be close when she was little. You're the a-hole. You are 100% cool with your son having an affair if it makes him happy. You are cool with immorality. You think that your granddaughter should just get over it and play nice, even though all this just went down a few months ago. Of course you're the a-hole. You should be embarrassed of your son, and your granddaughter can go her whole life without meeting your son's affair partner. It's none of your business, and frankly, since you were so supportive of the affair and what happened after, I don't blame her for not wanting much to do with you. Yep, you're the a-hole. You're telling your granddaughter that the destruction of her world is fine by you. It takes a while to adjust when your parents divorce, even if you are older. This girl has seen everything her mom has gone through, finding out her dad was unfaithful and leaving the marriage for the person who he was conducting an affair with. You don't get to tell her that her feelings are unfair just because you like a affair partner, or because your son is happier. Did a affair partner know your son was married, or did he lie to her too? I understand your son is unhappy. He should have ended the marriage then and there before involving a affair partner in his life, not strung his wife along until he was ready to commit elsewhere. I also like the rubbing it in that she has to accept her father's new family. Way to let her know she's been replaced, Grandma. I'm trying to work out if you are just a no mother-in-law to your daughter-in-law, or you are actually the father trying to get justification for his actions by writing this as mom. You're the a-hole for excusing cheating. Unhappiness is not a free pass to cheat. He was able to separate from her after the fact, so he could have also separated before. Your granddaughter is 20, old enough to know right from wrong, hence why she is probably pissed off at her dad for being a pig. When I was 14, I found out my dad stepped out on my mom and got another woman pregnant when I was a baby. So I have a half-sister I've never met. My mom found out when she realized he was making child support payments, and she kicked him out for a few weeks, but she eventually forgave him on the condition that he never contact the affair baby, her words, and she never has to hear about or see her. I'd grown up the youngest of the family with 4 older brothers, so little 14-year-old me was just excited to have A, a sister, and B, a younger sister at that. I begged my dad to get me in contact with her, and eventually he gave me her name so I could look her up on social media. Turns out, she knew already she had half-siblings. Her mom was pretty open with her about the situation, and she had always been pretty curious to know us, so she was happy to be in contact with me. I gave my mom a heads up that I was talking to my half-sister, and she was obviously very unhappy about it, and said she just didn't want to know about it. My half-sister and I became really close. I didn't tell my mom about it. It was weird, but we made it work. Fast forward 6 years, and both me and my half-sister were starting to think about moving out of home. We both felt like the most obvious thing to do was get an apartment together, since we both needed a housemate at the same time, in the same area, and we were so close. But with my mom's issues with her, we weren't sure. Eventually, I just bit the bullet and asked my mom how she'd feel if I moved in with my half-sister. Again, she was obviously not thrilled about it, but said she'd be fine with it as long as she doesn't have to see her or hear anything about my sister. I took that to mean if I wanted to spend time with my mom, I'd just go visit home or we'd go out somewhere together. After we moved in, I found out my mom meant she wanted to come visit me sometimes, and she wanted me to either have my sister leave or hide in her room for that time. She's acting like I should have known that without her telling me, and she's upset with me that I refused to kick my sister out of her own apartment or make her hide like Harry Potter. I'll be in my room making no noise and pretending I don't exist. It turns out she's also mad at me for moving in with her in the first place. Apparently, I was supposed to know that when she insisted she'd be fine with it, she actually wanted me to not do it. Not the a-hole. I think your mom needs marriage counseling and therapy. She forgave your father, but faulted his child when it wasn't her fault. Guess she thought that by pretending the child didn't exist, her marriage isn't broken and her family remains whole. Not the a-hole. My husband cheated on me and got a young woman, 10 years younger than our sons, pregnant. Our marriage ended despite his protests because it was not his first time to cheat. He ended up marrying the young female. We have a grandchild that was born 2 months after this child was born, and they're the best of friends. I see her at birthday parties. I hear about her through the other grandchildren, etc. I would never in a million years treat this child as if she did not exist because of a poor decision my ex-husband made. Your mother's issues should not be with this child, or even this child's mother. It should be with your father and no one else. Not the a-hole. Your mom is holding your sister responsible for your dad's actions. Neither you or your sister have done anything wrong, and it's actually awesome that you've built a relationship. Your sister deserves to feel comfortable in her own home. If your mom is uncomfortable, she doesn't have to visit you there. I, 15 female, have a half-brother, 16 male. His father cheated on his mother with my mom when he was only 1 year old, and after a few months of hooking up, had me. This destroyed his family and caused his mom to run off to another country and forget she ever had a kid. My dad then married my mom after a few months of dating, so my half-brother, James, would have a mom. They were always very open about the cheating and clearly favor me. I don't condone their actions, but I also don't really care. It's not something that I need to care about. Anyway, James has always picked on me and been really mean. He has done things like not invite me to events that I should be invited to. Think things like graduation from middle school. Yell at me if he is mad, even if I did nothing. Tell me hurtful things like I should never have been born. My dad has always told me that I deserve it because I am an affair baby, and I should just suck it up. He is really guilty of cheating and probably resents me. My mom yells at James if she can, but sometimes she can't. Well, yesterday, James told me that he wished I was just adopted because I am ugly and don't deserve happiness. I have body positivity issues and got deeply offended by this. I told him to just yell at Dad or Mom, but I don't care what my parents did. It is not my fault they had an affair. He then started screaming and crying, and my dad came up and told me that he is right, and I should feel ashamed of myself. I'm now grounded and have to write a 10-page essay on why it is my fault that his parents cheated. I don't think I am the a-hole, but considering the circumstances, I can see why I could be, because I was kind of rude. But guys, what do you think? Edit. Just so nobody gets confused. By favoring me, it was meant as they have more of a connection with me than with James. But my dad gets guilty sometimes, and that's when he starts to do these sorts of punishments. Sorry for the confusion. Not the a-hole. Your father is an aggressive a-hole that didn't wrap his wiener and wants to blame you for his actions. He is disgusting, and so is your mother for enabling him. You're not the a-hole. It's not your fault. You didn't choose to be born. Your parents did. What your dad is doing is ducked up by putting any burden on you for this. Not the a-hole. Can you make this essay where you say that in your unborn state, you suggested your dad go get laid? The idea that everything is your fault is the most ridiculous thing ever. Let's be honest. Your brother wouldn't care about you being an affair baby, unless your dad made it an issue. You were both infants. Your dad is the a-hole, and your brother is misguided, but he's a child, so it's probably not entirely his fault. I, 54 male, have a son, 18 male. His mother died during childbirth due to complications. I had a job that takes up a lot of my time between investments and stocks, which didn't leave me with that much time to take care of my son. Because of that, I hired a nanny, Maria, who took care of him 24/7. Maria is an immigrant who came to work here in my country, but she has 2 children the same age as mine. I've always been a busy person, but I've tried my best to be present in my son's life so he doesn't miss a father. When my son turned 16, I stopped working and started living with the profit my account earned. A year later, I married my current wife, Livia. Livia has a 19-year-old daughter who is currently taking a gap year before going to university. This month, my son left home to go to college. As he is now a grown man, I decided to fire Maria, but I threw a surprise farewell party and announced to her that I was going to be giving her a certain amount of money. In total, it would be enough for her to pay for her children's college expenses. They were accepted to public colleges in her country, and not to have to work anymore. The problem started when my wife started complaining that I paid college for a stranger's children, but not for her daughters. My wife works. She has savings equal to mine and could very well pay for her daughter's college. But she expects me to pay as a gift because, according to her, she will only see me as a good parent if I show her I care. I said I wouldn't do that and that she could pay for her college expenses, and I corrected her when she called Maria a stranger because she stopped taking care of her children to take care of mine, so that would be the least I could do. My stepdaughter, wife, and in-laws are calling me a-hole, but my close friends and family said I am not an a-hole. But I want to know what the internet thinks. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It's your money that you had before you met your wife. Calling Maria a stranger is incredibly rude. She is an integral part of your life. On another note, your generous gift to Maria and her family was generous and thoughtful. Not the a-hole. Maria raised your son for you. She earned this sweet bonus. Putting the Maria issue aside, you are paying for college for your child, and you said Livia has enough money to pay for hers. So no, you do not have to pay for her child's college. She is just trying to milk you, save her money. Not the a-hole. Maria helped raise your son. You gave her a cash bonus when her employment was no longer needed, since your son is grown. What she spends that money on is her business. Your stepdaughter did not come into your life until she was already an adult. At this point, she is really too old for a step-parent. You are her mother's husband. You do not have any financial obligation to your wife's daughter. I, 32 female, grew up with very young parents who divorced when I was 10. Neither parent handled the divorce well, and they refused to be in the same room as one another. As a result, I grew up having separate holidays, birthdays, etc. with each parent. My mom had primary custody, so I spent the majority of my childhood and adolescence with her. I've never had a close relationship with my stepmother. I don't talk to her outside of major gatherings and see her maybe 4 to 5 times a year. My mom and stepmother and dad live 5 minutes from each other, so distance isn't a factor. My dear husband, also 32, and I got married last year. It was the first major event that everyone had to attend and play nice at. My mom and dad both promised me that it was my day, and they had no issues being around each other for it. They even offered to do a combined speech. I invited my stepmother and stepsister to get ready with the girls, and my stepmother told me that she would be uncomfortable getting ready in a room with my mom, so I assumed they didn't want to attend this portion. Stepmother then said she would be highly offended if I took a photo with my bio family, parents and brothers, because she's my dad's wife, my mom isn't. After this conversation, I had major anxiety because it was clear she was struggling with insecurities, and I was trying to make everyone happy. I'd okayed everything with stepmother, the parents of the bride's speech, the slideshow, containing childhood photos with both parents. I even had stepmother and mom sitting at separate tables, facing away from each other. I put in every effort possible to have a drama-free day and make everyone comfortable. After the wedding, stepmother told me that I should have done more to include her. I told her about all the effort I put in to make her comfortable on my day. She said my efforts weren't good enough, and I should have treated her equally to my mom. She was offended that all the girls got ready together, and stepmother and stepsister weren't invited. I reminded her that I did invite them, and she told me she wasn't comfortable being around my mom. We had a huge fight, and stepmother kept bringing up the past and bad-mouthing my mom. I asked if they could respect my boundaries and leave me out of any drama they had with my mom. Stepmother threw it back in my face because now she can't express her feelings to me. My dear husband and I ended up kicking them out of our house after boundaries were ignored. Now we are 7 months pregnant with twins, first grandbabies, and they have been excluded from all celebrations, gender reveal, baby shower, etc. It's been made clear that stepmother doesn't want to be around mom, and I'm not going out of my way to accommodate her after the wedding fiasco. My dad has made it clear that he won't attend any events without stepmother, so he's been excluded by default. I told my dad that if they want to be a part of the grandkids' lives, then we can do separate celebrations. But mom will be attending the big celebrations, as she is much more integrated in my life. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad he won't be invited to major events? Not the a-hole. Your stepmom is playing games. Your dad is an a-hole for allowing this behavior, and your stepmom is a major a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your stepmother seems to think that included means the same as in charge, which is what she really wants to be. You've been more than reasonable, and if your dad wants to be supportive of you, he needs to expect his wife to be reasonable also, and to think of him and his relationship with you when she starts throwing her weight around. Since he doesn't seem to want to do that, and is trying to emotionally blackmail you into going along with his wife's whims by refusing to do anything without her, you're not the a-hole for keeping your boundary in place and protecting your relationship with your mother, even if it means leaving your father and stepmother out of things. Not the a-hole. You went above and beyond at your wedding to try to make stepmother comfortable, and she threw it back in your face. When they can stop acting like children, maybe they can be a part of your life and your children's lives.